and have been part of this. We know this, but this is a big deal. It needs to happen. And the aspect of a day, whatever day that is, becomes that moment. That's the 0 point, Steve.
Well, the moment, of course, is based on the definition that I gave to this, which is the head of state of a head of state of a nation, a fairly substantial nation. I think there are probably a few countries out there that people wouldn't pay attention. But head of state of a major nation comes forward and confirms formally, publicly, that we're not alone, however they want to phrase it, that we have in our possession non-human biological enemies. I mean, enemies. Oh, that's a Freudian slip. Entities. That means we're not alone, or we have non-human technology that we've been working with and educating uh, ourselves about. But that's also a confirmation that we're not alone. This event is important because until the heads of state, and other heads of state will follow, but somebody's got to go first. Until the heads of state confirm this, the real access to it, the ability to shape it, the ability to inculcate it into our world, hopefully in ways that could benefit the human race, which is right now in some pretty serious hot water, is not going to happen. And so the truth embargo was the policy of the government to say, no, you're not going to know about this. We can't completely hide it, but we're just going to embargo it. Right? And that's a phrase I came up with as well to swap for a UFO cover up. Disclosure, the disclosure process, there are two of them. Disclosure process, small d, means the effort for decades by people to get this information out in spite of the fact that government denied it and wasn't going to help. But a lot of researchers filed FOIAs and went through files um, and it just worked incredibly hard and to find every little thing they could and bring it out. Most of which was pretty much on the mark. But the government still stated, no, there's nothing to this. And so ending that truth embargo can really only happen by a head of state confirming it. Then everything changes. And we are extremely close. We're right there, really. Disclosure is literally right there, sitting, waiting for someone to pick it up.
And it is, and there's been a lot of chatter about that, which we'll get into here in a moment. But my question to you about all this is, why is it an assumption, at least in the Western world, that it needs to come from the White House rather than the Kremlin or, say, the Chinese or, these bigger players? Why does it feel like it needs to come from DC?
Well, let me mention that I have always made it clear that it is. Let me just get this out. Okay, I've always made it clear that head of state, a head of state, needs to confirm this. It's not likely that a number of them could get together and work out a joint announcement because it would leak like crazy. Um, and there's other reasons. But a head of state is going to make the decision this has to end. It doesn't have to be the United States. But not surprisingly, given the United States' position in the world and how much activity we've had over our country, we seem to be a favorite of the extraterrestrials, God bless them. Um, it's probably going to be the President of the United States. And there's reasons for that. Our allies have deferred to us on this. The dictatorship type countries, they're not really keen on giving their public exciting information that doesn't fit their party line or whatever. So they've remained out of it as well. So it's likely to be the president of the United States, but he could be any number of other nations. And the message that I have been putting out in interview after interview to our president, who sometimes lives 2 blocks from me, where my office is, um, that it would be in the best interest of the United States and the best interest of the president to do this, to to end this embargo and open the world up to a new reality, in a sense, a new world. I think it would play very well for him, and it would be greatly appreciated.
And I have to agree. And our particular current president, Mr. Trump, has, he's got the Space Force. He's kind of laid the groundwork, and he's certainly a man that appreciates the idea of being historical. Nothing will stamp you into the annals of time like being the one that brought this to the public in such a formal way.
That's my view. I could be wrong. I mean, that could be debated. I'm sure people would disagree. I think that, uh, by the way, the 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 size of the reaction to our president disclosing it may be starting to diminish or could be diminishing because essentially, uh, I can say this with confidence. The idea of aliens in our world or extraterrestrials, of not being alone, is almost normalized.
Yes.
It's, what can I say? It's normalized. Does that mean everybody believes it? No. But does that mean that anybody just raises an eyebrow when they see something? No, because some stuff is pouring out day after day after day. Let me just give you a sense. And recently, we've had a huge number of articles, mainstream print media articles coming out. Let me just give you a touch of this. Here is one article that's been reprinted, I think, in maybe a dozen media outlets. Review, review. In an age of disinformation, saucers, spooks, and kooks is the real film. It's a film that is coming out. Here's another New York. These are all recent. The New York Post. Congress demands Department of War release 46 secret UFO files. All right. Uh, let's see. Uh, this is NBC in Philadelphia. Trump orders UFO data release due to spiked interest. Okay. Um, Hollywood narrative on UFOs and ETs reaches back many decades. Washington Post. Harvard scientist responds to Vice President J.D. Vance's claim UFOs are demons. You see where I'm going here? I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
these things are pouring out on a regular basis, and none of the articles are, with almost no exceptions, are throwing shade on the idea of UFOs or something. They're simply responding and writing about what is going on, and what is going on, of course, is that there's almost a full-fledged engagement of the issue by the media, by Hollywood, by a larger segment of the American people, and by our Congress. The White House has been informed, but the managers of the Truth Embargo, hanging out over at the DOD and some of the intelligence agencies, they're still clinging to the hope that somehow they can extend this and not have to deal with it right now. And when events like the Iran war developing happen, certainly it buys them some time.
Yes. And the thing that I think amped this up a little bit is when Mr. Obama came, and this is now kind of a seminal moment where, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, and I think everyone is, when he kind of said, there's a there. And Mr. Trump in Air Force One had to kind of address this and
Mhm.
did. And then we get this information that the files will be released shortly at some point. And that kind of pushed this forward, it amped it forward.
Well, Congress is already going after files. And then the House has been leading this issue, but the Senate has done quite a bit as well, particularly with respect to creating legislation. But the president was pretty much staying out of it, though his family is into it, his son,
Yes.
Laura. Um, but he kind of stayed out of it. I get it. There's a lot in his plate, a lot of stuff going on. Uh, but what happened, I believe, I think I understand why it happened, but only the individuals involved know for sure. Right? I haven't gotten any nasty notes from anybody. Barack Obama was president for 2 terms. He knows there's an ET presence. Every
Yes.
president is told that. That doesn't mean they're told anything else. It could be as simple as, yes, sir, there is an extraterrestrial or non-human presence here. We're working on it. You don't want to go there. Huge amount of classified national security stuff. It will cause some upset, so many things on your plate. And I think every president has pretty much gone along with it. Now, as it happens, though, uh, an effort to get President Clinton to deal with this, a very substantial effort funded by a Rockefeller, occurred back in the early 90s. And that was a big deal, mostly inside, not much was known publicly for years. An effort was made to get the files. The DOD resisted. Meetings were held, reports were written, and the proof of that all came out in 1999. Now, why is that important? Because a key person in this was John Podesta, who was a key aide to President Clinton during that period. So he was actually tasked to try to get those files released from the Pentagon. And that launched him into this issue. I don't think he was involved before, but he was involved after that. And while once the Clintons left office, they did not speak to this issue, even though there was a lot of media directed at them. John Podesta didn't stop. He continued to engage the issue, working with Leslie Kean, making occasional statements. It was like he was carrying the ball, and I believe he was carrying the ball for Hillary Clinton. One of the reasons that the Clintons never said anything about really at all for years after leaving office, even though obviously they knew about the Rockefeller Initiative, was one President Clinton got roughed up pretty heavily in that second term. They didn't want to do anything to complicate Al Gore's effort to become president. But most importantly, they didn't want to complicate Hillary Clinton's intention to be president, which I think was already in their minds at that point. So
Yes.
this issue was just don't go there. So they didn't. But John Podesta did. He carried the ball, and I think he carried it for Hillary Clinton because I felt even way back then, if she gets to be president, she's going to undo what the military intelligence complex did to her husband, which close him down, embarrass him in a lot of ways by ending this embargo. And as she got closer to be president, it became increasingly clear it was on the menu. Now, I think I played a role in that. I have directed so many media toward them, and hundreds of articles have been written about their connection to the issue. So you have that, and now it carries over into the Obama administration finally, because Podesta was obviously working with Obama. He actually worked for him in the White House for a while. At the same time, still embracing this issue. So I know that Obama pretty much not only knows about the ET issue as from being president, but knows even more because of his connection to Podesta back through to the Clintons. So
Yes.
as we move forward on this issue, still not quite there, always just, one more mile from the finish line, but it's always getting pushed back. They keep moving the goalposts. All that kind of stuff is happening. Obama, I believe, made a decision to step into this. Now, let's be clear. Former presidents do not step into massive issues that are on the plate of a current president. They just don't.
Yes. Yeah.
Extremely rare. And so he wasn't going to do that. But he came up with a very clever way to do it. All right. In other words, he does an interview. I think it was with Brian Taylor Cohen, who is one of the absolute top podcasters out there. I mean, he is sharp, and they're doing intensive podcasts covering everything. Uh, it's one of the major ones you want to subscribe to. So he's doing an interview with him, which high level, it's going to get millions of views. And for whatever reason, uh, Cohen asks him a simple question. It's sort of a speed round. Do you think there are aliens? Now, did Obama request that he ask that question? I don't know. We may never know. But my gut says yeah. And he immediately snaps off an answer. The question was, are they real? Are aliens real? And not here, but are they real? And he immediately snaps off the answer, they're real. Now, at that moment, this is a moment in history, which if I maybe I'll write an article about this. I need to write more. Uh, as a moment in history, it's quite interesting. In that moment, when he says aliens are real, he has two choices. First of all, he just stepped into a massive issue. that is on out there and clearly has huge national security implications. There have been hearings, there have been witnesses coming forward, uh, and he just stepped into it. But he is an ex-president, and so that's not cool.
Yeah.
And so one choice he had was to immediately just back away. Like, I made a mistake. Probably shouldn't have said that, but whatever. Meaning that, yeah, well, I think they're real. I think that in this huge galaxy that we live in, surely there are other aliens out there and they're real. Not necessarily here, but he did not do that. Instead, he doubled down twice. So he says they're real, but they're not at Area 51. So now he's brought up Area 51, but making the point they're not there. Well, if they're not real, there's no reason to mention that. So he mentions that yeah, they're not a video, and that's a double down. And then he says, um, uh, because there's these underground facilities there, a lot of people think they're there. Now he's mentioned that, and then he says, well, uh, uh, there have been people that have gone to great lengths to the government, rather. He's implying that the government has gone to great lengths to keep it from the president, which happens to be true. Now, this is a triple down. All right. So at this point, he has launched this thing out there into the world. Now he's got a problem because you just don't do that. So not surprisingly, the next day he walks it back and he gives the explanation he could have given, which is yeah, there's almost certainly other intelligent life in this universe is so huge and therefore yeah, they're real somewhere else, not here. So he does this. So now he stepped out of the problem that he created intentionally, I think, and just laid that egg. Only 24 hours later, the president formally states, I think it was, it might have been on Truth Social. It could have been also on a post. I mean, a post on Truth Social, but he also could have made a statement on the airplane. But whatever, that he is going to move to get the files released.
Yes.
Boom. All right. Boom. This is huge. Right. So now the president has formally stepped into this issue at the same level of the House of Representatives and the individuals over there in the task force and the oversight subcommittee. This takes it to another level. And I think that's what Obama exactly wanted to happen and generated a huge number of articles. Oh, God. So I have over 700 articles that I have got to log into my archive, my print media archive on my website because I just was been traveling and I just couldn't do it. But I've got all the articles, I've got the links and so forth. It's going to take me probably 5 or 6 days to load those 700 articles in, and a huge number of them were generated by the president's statement, which has then been supported by. And by the way, that statement gave agency to Luna, right, who was going after the files as well,
Yes.
the head of the task force, and agency to Tim Burchett to come out and tell and say that there's ETs here another 10 times, and there's been articles about him. Here's one: a U.S. congressman issues bombshell warning over UFO secrets that would leave the world unglued. There's been about 15 or so articles like that. So whether the president understood that he was giving agency to a lot of the members of Congress to continue to do what they're doing, he took it to another level. And so that was, I think, a significant thing. And one day maybe we'll be able to ask the former president, was that intentional, sir?
Well, the thing that I think a lot of people appreciate about Mr. Obama is he's very clever, he's very intelligent, and he's always had je ne sais quoi with the way in which he engages language.
Hmm.
And so we could see that in his prowess around sort of edging this forward. And with everything you're saying here, and then Laura Trump also really pushing this in, her blog is massive too. And so we've got a lot of big coverage on this. People, especially millennials up, are biting at the bit to get like the formal announcement. And this is my what I'm posing to you. What I have personally noticed is millennials down, they seem to just accept it. They just kind of came in and it's in their worldview.
Sure.
They don't actually care or need any agency to tell them that it's real or not. It really does seem to be millennials up that want to have that from a state head. What do you think about this?
Actually, a little different. Let me put it this way: the the younger the generation, right, the more sci-fi movies they have watched in any particular year of their life, right?
Yes.
You go back, it drops off. So they have been seeing in high quality CGI and now AI movies about extraterrestrials, and they've been flying through the galaxy, all kinds of great, starships and everything else since they were old enough to turn on the TV or go
Yeah.
to a movie. So they are not. Let me put it this way: it's not that they're not jaded. It's just that this isn't a shock to them, right? Now they're also young, and they're looking about their life and how things are going to go, and they got a lot in their mind, and so they may not be hardcore activists in terms of getting this truth out, which has implications for their future, to be sure. But it's a pretty significant discussion, but they're not going to get in the way. And they will certainly be thrilled if the president confirms ET presence. They'll go, you mean there's real ETs? Okay.
Yes.
Are they as cool as the ones in the movies? Actually, no. Are they as dangerous as the ones in the movies? Definitely no. And that's cool. And that's just one more reason, one of dozens and dozens of reasons why the truth embargo is hanging by a thread, and it could end at any time. And at this point, that is in the hands of the president.
This kind of brings me to a point that there's many groups with ideas and lots of experiencers starting back the Barney and the going way back decades.
Sure.
Uh, Different stories. Travis Walton's walked back a narrative and then came back with a different idea of it. And they're dimensionals as opposed to this and that, all the nuance here.
Hmm.
However, what I'm getting at now is this idea of are they, and there's different species here, of course,
Hmm.
but the general idea is like the reptilian types and some of these more militaristic types are not congruent with our way of life and maybe eating us, for example. And so there's just two groups. I just noticed that there's a whole section of people that think that they are all a benefit to us. And then there's another section, I'm simplifying, that think this is not a good thing. This is a prison planet, etc. I'm asking you to step out on your opinion on this as just your opinion, having been in this field a very long time, talk to everybody.
Hmm.
Um, how do you feel about this in general?
Well, first, the reason that we can't be definitive about dozens of such questions is that the US government has literally denied the very reality in front of our own eyes for now almost 80 years.
Yes.
So, given the fact that they will not allow the matter to be properly discussed and worked on and developed, people have to come up with their own interpretations. And there's a lot of people out there with a lot of points of view and different levels of education and everything else, and so they come up with this and that, and because the issue is important, it's in play, and there's never been easier ways to put opinions in play than in the last 30 years. I'm sure you understand that.
Yeah. Yes.
So most of these are efforts to try to get a handle on it, and it's exactly what people should do, and in most cases is wrong. Um, that's okay. Well, almost okay, because some of the theories that come up are not helpful to the disclosure process. Meaning, if they're right, fine, and therefore they have a seat at the table. But if they're wrong in important ways, then that undermines the truth embargo. The government, of course, would love us to have 1,000 theories about them and even fight over them, right? And that happens too online on social media.
Yes.
Because if we're doing that, if we're speculating upon speculation and arguing with those that disagree, we're not bothering them. We're not pressuring the truth embargo. That's obviously changed now. Now the truth embargo is under constant pressure, and it's being normalized and so forth. And so we will ultimately, I think, get a pretty good idea of the history of this phenomena going back 80 years. We should probably get a good deal of the information out post disclosure. And we may even have open contact with ETs where information is exchanged and we're aware of it, and we'll start to get the actual truth, which we can then deal with. I want to be able to deal with the truth and decide whether I'm upset or not. Not getting upset with 43 versions of the truth that people are trying to come up with, absent the ability to really to get at the truth because the government is standing in the way. Right. So, uh, but the normalization of this issue is probably the most important thing that people need to hear about that may not realize how normalized it's gotten. One of the areas that has always been uh, off to the side during the this huge effort since 2017 to end the truth embargo, which has made the most progress ever. But in spite, if you look at all the articles, if you watch what members of Congress are saying and so forth, the contactee phenomena is not on the table. Now, the reason for that is that trying to get the government, which is sitting on enormous amounts of super classified material and an earth changing, world changing bit of information, to engage this issue, meaning people that are in government to say something or take action, it's not easy, right? And you need to go about it in a way that will work.